Hey there, Rotoballers, and welcome back to Week 4 of NFL DFS. I'm Thunder Dan Palyo, and I'm here to give you my top plays at each position. What I'm going to do a little differently this week is I'm going to give you like the chalk play at each position that you should be probably penciling into your cash games. Then also going to give you a pivot player that you can roster at lower ownership in your tournaments. Let's start at quarterback, and I want to talk about Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills face the Baltimore Ravens in a game with the highest total on the slate, 51.5. It's a great spot for Josh Allen. We know he has elite rushing upside as well as passing volume. He's facing a Baltimore team that's given up the second most points to quarterbacks this season. There's an easy play there, except he's very expensive. So if you want to be contrarian, I think you can pay down Geno Smith, who is facing the Detroit Lions. And while Detroit is favored to win, we think Geno's probably going to have to pass in that game. And he's facing a Detroit secondary that has allowed the third most fantasy points to quarterbacks and is the 25th overall unit in passing DVOA. All right, let's talk running backs. I think the chalk on the slate is going to be Jamal Williams from that Detroit-Seattle game, as we expect DeAndre Swift to miss. Jamal Williams is a fine play, and probably should be definitely in your cash game lineups. Seattle is 31st in opposing rush defense, and Jamal Williams is getting a ton of work, especially at the goal line. But one pivot to make there, possibly in tournaments, would be to Najee Harris for a little bit more on DraftKings. And Najee and the Steelers are facing a Jets team that is 32nd ranked rushing defense, DVOA rush defense. So, and now we know Najee gets goal line carries. Najee can get targets in the passing game. He could be a smart pivot there, the running back position. All right, let's talk wide receivers. I think one of the most popular wide receivers on the board, without question, is going to be Stephon Diggs, who is projecting at double the ownership of pretty much almost every other wide receiver on the board. And while Diggs is a great play in cash, we can even pair him with Josh Allen. We expect, again, a lot of scoring in that game, and we expect the Bills to put up a lot of offense. The Ravens are giving up the most fantasy points to opposing receivers. He also is very expensive, especially to fit in lineups with Josh Allen. So I think pivoting down into the mid-tier for a wide receiver is going to be wise for GPPs. One of the guys I'm looking at is actually Christian Kirk, who, on the Jacksonville Jaguars is facing the Eagles this week. And the matchup doesn't look good on paper, but if we expect the Jaguars to be throwing and playing from behind in this game, then I think we're going to see a lot of volume for the receivers. Christian Kirk often lines up in the slot and plays as a slot receiver. And that is the one spot that I would try to attack the Eagles, as that's kind of their one weakness of their secondary. Avonte Maddox being their kind of least effective corner playing in the slot. All right, let's jump down to tight end. And I think, again, the most popular tight end is going to come from that Baltimore Buffalo game. Mark Andrews, coming off another 2-touchdown game, is just incredibly expensive. I don't know how if you're going to stack that game up, it's going to be very difficult to do to get Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Mark Edwardson, or Lamar Jackson, or whoever you're playing at quarterback. And problem for Mark Andrews is Buffalo's defense is very good, especially against the tight end. They have excellent linebackers who can hang with him and cover him. They give up some of the least amount of fantasy points to tight ends, and I just think it's a very kind of dangerous spot to pay up. So I'm paying down a tight end with a lot of these plays this week. I think one guy we can look at is definitely David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns, as they're facing the Atlanta Falcons. They've allowed the second most fantasy points to tight ends, right? 31st past DVOA. He had a huge week last week against my Pittsburgh Steelers, where he put up a bunch of catches and a touchdown and a lot of yardage. So I think Njoku is a nice, safe play down there. The other guy I might look at is Tyler Conklin against the Steelers this week, who has averaged 6 catches on 8 targets. So to recap, at the quarterback position, your safe play is Josh Allen. I think paying down to Geno Smith makes some sense to be a little different there. At the running back position, the safest play on the board by far is Jamal Williams, but one of my favorite pivots is going to be Najee Harris. At the wide receiver position, Stephon Diggs by far is the chalk of the slate. It should be in your cash game builds. One of my favorite pivots is Christian Kirk, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And at the tight end position, Mark Andrews is going to lead the entire position in ownership, but it's a dangerous spot against Buffalo, so I would pivot to cheaper tight ends such as David Njoku or Tyler Conklin. Thanks again, Runner Baller, for watching. Make sure you check back every week for all the new content on the site and on YouTube. Watch, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. We'll see you again next week.